Hello everyone, welcome back to Be the Hope. It is Wednesday, May 13th, the Wednesday of the 5th week of Easter, and it's actually a really awesome feast day today. It's the memorial or feast of Our Lady of Fatima, and if you're not super familiar with Fatima, it was a really miraculous apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary to three young children. And I think it's so cool that Mary always appears to children because of their faith and their trust and their openness to the miraculous and to God working in their lives. So Mary appeared to these three children, and yes, she did warn them of things to come. She warned them of what would happen if the world strayed away from the Lord, and some of the wars and things like that were going to happen in the near future within the next century. But what we need to remember is that she also brought great hope. She brought great hope to the children and then to all of those who heard their message, because she reminded them that in the end her Immaculate Heart would triumph. Her Immaculate Heart would win out over all of the war that might happen. She would just pour out the Lord's grace onto her children, onto the world, and ultimately her heart and the Lord and his grace would triumph, not the evil that would come about. So yes, there is warning. Yes, there is some trepidation that might come out of hearing the message of Our Lady of Fatima, but there's also great hope. And I think that's something that we need to hold on to right now too. With everything that's going on in our world right now, we need to hear a little bit of hope. We need to be challenged. We need to be told to turn back to the Lord and to bring our families back to the Lord and to pray the rosary and all of these things that Our Lady told the children at Fatima. But it's so important that we also remember that her Immaculate Heart will triumph, that the Lord will win in the end. He already has won the victory. This virus will not win the victory. Politicians will not win the victory. No one else will win the victory. Nothing else will win the victory. Only our Lord and his mother and their sacred and immaculate hearts will ultimately win the victory, and honestly have already won the victory. Jesus won the victory on the cross and in the resurrection, and maybe we don't see all of that in the world right now. There's still suffering, there's still death, but he's won the victory. The war just might not be over yet. We might still be fighting battles, but he has won the war. He has won the victory. And when I heard a homily this morning about Our Lady of Fatima and about how her Immaculate Heart would triumph, I also heard that in the context of today's gospel, and it got me thinking. Today's gospel is about Jesus being the vine and us being the branches, that there is absolutely nothing that we can do for the Lord, and ultimately anything good that we can really do apart from him. Sometimes I think we treat ourselves like branches that are cut off from the vine. Sometimes I feel like we believe that it's weak to trust and rely on the Lord and to admit that we cannot do anything on our own. But that's completely not that's not the truth. The truth is that we are branches, and branches cannot exist and bear fruit apart from the vine, apart from that which gives them life. It's not weak for us to admit that we cannot do anything apart from the Lord and apart from his grace. Our Lady never felt, she never said that she did any of this on her own. When we say that Our Lady's Immaculate Heart will triumph, that doesn't mean that by Mary's power she's going to defeat the evil in our world. That means that the grace of the Lord working through her and the grace that she pours out on us, which is the grace of Jesus Christ, her Son, that is what will triumph. The reason that Mary is such a powerful intercessor is because she was open to God working through her. It's because she knew that she was a branch on the vine. She knew that she would do no good, produce no fruit apart from Jesus, her Son. And I've been thinking a lot about what it means to remain in Jesus. Jesus says, "Remain in me as I remain in you." Remain in me as a branch remains on the vine. and you will produce much fruit. I've been thinking about what it means to remain, and I've realized that it is a lot like when we say that we are of one heart and mind with a friend. Sometimes we might say, I feel like we're one mind or one heart or one person. We just automatically know what the other one is thinking, and it's almost as though we're one person. I feel as though that's what Jesus is getting at when he says, remain in me. He doesn't just mean, fulfill your obligations and follow the commandments, although those are important things. And he says, whoever follows my commandments loves me and I love him. And yes, following the commandments are very important, but he also wants that deep relationship with us. He wants us to remain with him in such a way that we are like that friend who is of one mind and one heart with the other friend. And everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, it's as though we're one heart and one mind. When we are one heart and one mind with Christ, that is when we will produce great fruit. When we allow him to work through us and we do not rely on our own power, we know that we can do nothing apart from him. That is when we will produce great fruit and become his disciples. So it is not weak. It's not a bad thing to admit that you are powerless on your own, because you know who created you. You know who God has created you to be, and that is to be someone who remains in him and will produce great fruit. So today we are called to be like Mary, to take on her Immaculate Heart and to allow God to work through us, so that in the end his grace will triumph, but that he will work through us to triumph, to defeat the evil in the world, to win that final battle, and to win the war, which he has already won on the cross. So you have that same ability to allow God to work through you, just as he works through Mary when she says that her Immaculate Heart will triumph. So turn to Mary today, ask for the same humility and wisdom that she had, and know that you are able to do anything and everything for God's glory if you remain in him, because he remains in you. Stay close to him and know the peace and the hope that come from that. Know that I'm praying for you, and know that you are always on our minds and our hearts.